Hi my dear friends, and welcome back to another Bad Batch breakdown. As always, I'm going to save my full review for the very end, but what I will say is that I'm one happy lady. That episode was absolutely insane, and probably my favourite one since the premiere. We are in for quite a treat next week with the finale, so without much further ado, and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into the breakdown. We begin with Hunter being held captive by Crosshair and he's being taken to Kamino. Crosshair activates Hunter's comm device to lure the rest of the batch in. The other members of the Bad Batch are back on Ord Mantell, and we learn from Wrecker that they've left Gregor with Sid. I reckon Rex is going to come for him and they're going to rescue Wolf next season. Meanwhile, the batch pick up the signal from Hunter's comm device and they head for Kamino. What's really interesting is that in episode 9, Hunter promised Omega that she'd never have to return to Kamino ever again. I think that was a way of telling us, the audience, that she inevitably would return. On Kamino, Crosshair brings Hunter to Rampart, who tells him that he was very impressed with the destruction they caused on Ryloth. It's clear from this and what Crosshair reveals later on that while the Empire is eliminating clones, they want to keep those that are valuable. They see the Bad Batch as a prime example of an asset worth holding on to. AZ, the medical droid, later tells us that most clones were taken off-world to be reassigned, but surely the Empire eliminated some of them. What's really dark about this is the potential implication on last week's episode. We saw young clones being escorted off Kamino, and I do wonder if the Empire will take a chance on another generation of clones, or whether they've been taken away to be purged and mass executed. Unless, of course, the Empire does have a purpose for them, and they're going to be the last generation of clones that will be trained for combat or Imperial defense. There was just something very eerie about the empty hallways and deserted cloning facilities of Tipoca City, but we're going to come back to this later. Back on the Havoc Marauder, the Bad Batch approach Kamino, but they're worried about being captured immediately upon arrival. This is when Omega makes a startling revelation that she knows of a secret landing pad that they can use. While Echo expresses his doubts and concerns, Omega guarantees that this one won't be swarming with troopers. I want to point out here that if the music in this sequence is familiar to you, it's because they used John Williams' score for Kamino from Attack of the Clones. And I must say that as someone who grew up with the prequels as a young girl, I couldn't have asked for a more magical piece of nostalgia. So thank you to the Kinner brothers for that. As the Bad Batch approach the coordinates that Omega gave to Tech, it becomes blatantly clear how close to the water the landing pad is. In fact, it's a secret platform that emerges out of the water when triggered. It's a capsule that leads to Nala Se's private research lab, and Omega knows how to navigate it. Now, when they're inside the vessel, Omega gets very emotional when discussing the topic, and it goes back to episode 9 when she revealed that she doesn't like the idea that she's a clone. It makes her feel unreal and manufactured when in reality, she has so much more autonomy than that. Then we come to the first of 3 vital scenes where the dialogue is centered around Hunter and Crosshair. Crosshair reveals that he feels betrayed that the Bad Batch left him behind. It's at this point that we begin to have suspicions that Crosshair is acting out of free will and not his chip. He is simply spiteful of his brothers. They broke his heart when they left him to be taken and used by the Empire, and later on, of course, it's confirmed that he doesn't have his chip anymore and that he's acting out of his own accord. This is something I predicted over a month ago, and it feels so good to be right about it. The Bad Batch arrive at Nala Se's lab, and Omega tells them that this is where she was made, along with the other members of Clone Force 99. What's really interesting to me is that with Nala Se now working for the Empire, as we learned last week, we must wonder what other creations she's going to manufacture, and I suppose we're going to find out soon enough. All of a sudden they hear a sound, but luckily it's only AZ, the medical droid who we saw earlier in the season. This droid's full name is pretty insane, so I'm just going to call him AZ for now. The droid warns them of impending danger, and along with him, the batch flee the lab. They learn that Hunter has been taken to the training room above them. Tech suggests that they enter through the lift instead of the main entrance to have a slight advantage. Otherwise, as Echo says, he'll pick them off one by one. Omega is told to stay behind and that they'll give her a signal if things go south, which of course they do very quickly when the Bad Batch is surrounded by Crosshair and the new recruits. The batch throw down their weapons, and then we have an emotional talk between Crosshair and the Batch, where once again he admits his feelings of betrayal. Crosshair tells Hunter that he'll give them what they never gave to him, a chance. I must admit I didn't expect to be as moved as I was by this sequence. He tells the Batch that he wants them to join the Empire as they are valuable and they were created to be effective soldiers. Hunter reminds him that it was never about Republic or Empire, it's about their brotherhood. As you might come to expect, Hunter still does not trust Crosshair, and unexpectedly, to prove himself, Crosshair shoots the new recruits. Meanwhile, when Omega receives the signal from Tech, she inadvertently activates the training droids, which proves to be a bad idea. The Batch then have to deal with them, and Omega uses her energy bow. She's become far more skilled with it in recent times. Crosshair and Hunter wrestle, and when all is said and done, the Bad Batch surround their brother. This is when we get the big reveal of the episode, that he's not been operating under the influence of his chip, but rather, this is who he is. Hunter stuns him and they carry him out as they make their escape. On a nearby Star Destroyer, Rampart talks to a hologram of Tarkin, and Tarkin says, "You may fire when ready." This is of course a direct callback to A New Hope, when Tarkin repeats the same line before Alderaan is destroyed by the Death Star, right in front of Leia's eyes. In this case, as always, the Empire shows no mercy and obliterates Tipoca City. This scene is absolutely brutal and exactly what you'd expect from the Empire. No more cloning facility, and 99% of the Kaminoan species has now become extinct. Now the reason I say this is because canonically, we do know that some of them survived and escaped. In the recent War of the Bounty Hunters Jabba the Hutt comic, we learn that Kaminoans did not all become extinct after the Clone Wars, and we even see one off-world. Hondo Ohnaka also mentions this in Pirate's Price, so hopefully we do see what became of the survivors. But bear in mind it's only part 1 of 2, with the season 1 finale next week. Now that we know there's going to be a season 2, Lucasfilm can be more lax with how they end this season next week, although I'm pretty sure there's going to be a cliffhanger. With the ending we got today, I think it's safe to say that Crosshair will have his redemption arc. The brothers are finally back together, and the direction for the final episode is really up in the air. They can do so much with it, and I really don't know which direction it's going to take. I suspect the Batch is going to head back to their base on Ord Mantell and reconvene with Sid and Gregor. Whatever they have in store next week, get ready for a big plot twist, my friends. And so now guys, for my review. I wholeheartedly love this one. It's absolutely everything you want in a Star Wars animation show, and I don't have any complaints. One thing that really stood out were the visuals of Tipoca City and the detail of the rain and the sea when the Bad Batch landed on the secret platform. This incredible attention to detail did not end there though. The expressions on Crosshair's face when he poured his heart out to Hunter was absolutely sublime, and I personally thank everyone who worked on this amazing show for their dedication and providing us with such incredible Star Wars content. So what I will say is that my final review is a bit shorter this week than normal, because if I go on, I'll just be sat here for hours praising every single scene. So of course, this one gets a 10 out of 10 from me, no complaints, bring on the next one. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy today's episode? Let me know your thoughts and your rating out of 10 in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed my full breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and a huge welcome if you are. And also be sure to give that bell a good old tickle to be alerted each and every time that I post a new video. Otherwise, my dear friends, I'm Star Wars Meg, wishing you all a phenomenal rest of the day, no matter where you dwell in the galaxy. Have a good one. I'm pleased to announce that I now have a second channel that is dedicated to my Star Wars music mixes. As many of you know, I'm a musician and composer, and as such, I create about half the music for this channel myself. After several requests, I've decided to create an entire channel dedicated to it. It's called Meg's Cantina, and on there I'll be uploading Star Wars ambience and chill mixes that you guys can relax to. They're going to be inspired by themes from across the saga and all contain animated artwork to accompany them. If that sort of thing appeals to you, then go over to Meg's Cantina or click the link in the description down below and make sure to hit subscribe. Bear in mind that channel has no impact on this one, so if it's not your cup of tea, don't worry whatsoever. Thank you all so much for your time.